I want to talk to you for a moment about 1 Corinthians 10, verse 23. It says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. You know, we find ourselves in this quarantine situation at times with a lot of extra time. I mean, we have a decision on how are we going to use the time that we're given. And that's obviously not just inside a quarantine, but how do we use the time we have here wisely? And one lesson that we get out of 1 Corinthians as Paul is writing, he's talking about the Jewish law. He's talking about some of the Old Testament laws that are no longer applicable to the church. These aren't moral laws. The moral laws never change, but these are the sacrificial laws. These are the traditions that they had, the ceremonies they had. And when Paul's talking about it, and he's then talking about the Corinthians who are trying to, in a way, find what the line is. Like, what can I do that's not sinful? Paul says, you know, when we're thinking about what we should do, our question shouldn't be, you know, what can I do that's not sinful? Like, is it okay? Like, is it sinful or is it not sinful? The question should actually be, what can I do that will glorify God? A couple verses later, he says, you know, whether you eat, you drink, whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. And as we have extra time on our hands, I would encourage you, something that I've been challenged with, is to not just settle for things that aren't sinful. Don't just settle to do things that, well, it's not wrong. Settle to do things that are beneficial, things that are profitable, things that are meaningful, things that glorify God, that have a positive effect, not just lack a negative effect. And so when you have extra time on your hand, when you're making choices, I would just encourage you, you know, there's a lot of stuff we can do that isn't necessarily wrong, but it's not beneficial. It's not profitable. Use this time wisely. Use this time to grow in your relationship with God, to build God's kingdom, to share the gospel with other people. Use it in a profitable way, all for the glory of God.